the problem is as follows. How does a fat, ugly, and unpopular child make it in the world? How does she survive if you don't have beauty? Well, thankfully, I had brains, and I used them. When I was at primary school, I was often the first to finish my assignments in class, and the teacher used to say, well, if you're finished, then you might as well help the other children. So this phrase, Miriam, will you help me? I started looking forward to hearing that. That became my identity. I turned into a class hero because of it. So I gained hero identity, and that got me through primary school. But of course, you can't be a hero all the time. People don't always need you. And I learned this, the hard truth, when I went to high school. I did grammar school, which meant that all the other children were brainy too. Meanwhile, I was still fat, ugly, and unpopular, and just as brainy as everybody else. So I had lost my identity. And when I went to university, I can remember this lecture of Diederik Stapel. He did something very different from what all the other lecturers did. Right at the start, he put up a PowerPoint slide with a picture of his newborn daughter, Sanna. And he said, "This is my daughter." And within just one little sentence, 10 seconds, he had won us over. Everyone loved him. They thought he was great. And I knew at that moment what I had to do. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be him. Most people around me, they had stage fright. They were afraid of public speaking, but I wasn't. And I thought, perhaps if I can be a lecturer one day, I could be the hero yet again. And I didn't deliberately choose a teaching path after that, but I've always enjoyed any opportunity of being in the spotlight. Whenever someone had to give a presentation, I was always the first to volunteer. Any chance to show that I dare what you don't gave me a feeling that I was important, that I mattered. And I realized that I am what I do. And maybe this is not true for everybody, but it feels like that for me, that not only am I what I do, but I also am only as good as the last thing I did. This is true for painting. This is true for cycling, teaching, and it's a theme that is running through my life. Anyway, I went on to be, first of all, I did my PhD. I remember one instance where we had to do lab classes to earn our keep, but it was a lecturer doing it, and we were just standing at the side handing out handouts whenever we had to. But one day the lecturer was ill and I had to take over, and I can remember that feeling of utter pride when another lecturer walked in, saw me teaching right at a moment where I had everybody under control. They were all looking at me, and I felt I had the whole world in my hands. And I just thought, I wish my classmates at high school could see me. I'm not that grey mouse that you think I am. I actually am somebody. I can do this. I can do what you can't. And even then, deep down in me, I realized that I love teaching because of what it did for me. But I never said that out loud. That came when I went to this PGcert course. That's when I learned it. Now, first, after my PhD, I became a research fellow, and to be honest, that was shit awful time. I didn't get on with. Well, I liked the topic, but the whole research process and being in a very small room with 2 other people when you're highly sensitive and you've got Asperger's is not a very good idea. I was deeply and utterly miserable. And David Turk, my boss, he said, "No, you're coming in late, you're leaving early, you just don't care." And translated back to my existing schema, that meant you are what you do, but if you don't do it, you're nothing, you're nobody. And I felt I had no identity at all. And that one afternoon in September 2011, things changed when Professor Sarai stuck his head around my door and said, "Did you apply for that teaching fellowship post?" And I said no, because that title does not apply to me anymore. I didn't feel I could, somehow. I can't actually remember exactly why I hadn't, but it was over the deadline anyway, so I couldn't do it anymore. He said, "You should. You need to apply. Send it in today, by the end of today." I did, and I bragged myself through the job interview that I got subsequently. I had no evidence that I was able to teach. All I knew was that in my mind I had taught thousands of times, and in my mind I had enjoyed it. But they hired me. And I remember the sheer relief that I felt at that time. And I remember thinking, it's not only I am what I do, but now I also do what I am. I felt I had been given the appropriate label, the appropriate identity. And truth be told, the first few weeks of my teaching fellow post was just one big ego trip. I loved the feeling of being the student's hero, helping them out, spoon feeding them, which in hindsight I know is all wrong. Why is it wrong? Because they don't come to university to be spoon fed. What we want people to do at the end is to be independent thinkers. So we need to teach them how to be independent thinkers. Now that sounds a bit contradictory, but I know that that's what we've got to do. But anyway, I think I better leave it there for now and record it and listen to it later and see what I come up with. Thank you very much for listening.